Yo. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to more Dead by Daylight reviews. Critty, you did this on purpose, didn't you? Didn't you, Critty? You did this on purpose. I'm watching you. You did this on purpose. Ah. And then Cordy posted something too. I'm watching you too. I'm watching you too. I know what you two are doing. I know what you're doing. You ain't gonna get one over on OQ. Today, we have a concept that I went over the other day. We'll go ahead and, well, yesterday. So we'll go ahead and breeze through that real quick. We have a concept from Critical Fish. We have a concept through Cordyceps. And then we have a concept through Just Kind. So starting out, the Batman Who Laughs. There's apparently 3 new things. Before it specifies what new things there are. So they're all comments. It would be cool if he turns the sacrifice survivor into a Robin. Last one reminds me on Mouth of Sauron. And then it would be funny. I mean, honestly, this person right here, this Mark dude, or not the Mark dude, the Diablo Kawaii, what the heck? Diablito Kawaii actually has a decent concept there, and it wouldn't be that much to implement into the game. You would also have a dual killer style setup. The one killer is a main killer walking around, and the other killer would just be like, you know, like a victor running around just doing things, holding people in place. Probably won't be able to do any type of injuries, but to be able to hold survivors in place, you know, every once in a while would be pretty cool. So if you do go down and you end up getting sacrificed early, you can then stay in the game if you want. If not, an AI will just take over. But you can also get a little revenge on particular survivors that aren't necessarily helping the team, or the ones that sandbagged you, or any type of thing like that, or something happened. It gives you kind of a revenge type setup. If you're playing a good game, the survivors are doing decent and all of that, you know, just let it go. Now, to keep people from taking control over this Robin and not doing anything, like not going after survivors or anything like that, all you need to do is implement a timer. Very, very, very short timer. Like, I don't know, 20 seconds or so. And if that particular Robin doesn't get within X amount of meters of a survivor, or doesn't attack or hit a survivor, to be more specific, in that particular time, or doesn't grab a survivor in a particular amount of time, they are immediately shut out and an AI assumes control. So you don't have a survive with friends, somebody dies, that person comes back and they're joining in a Robin and they run to the opposite side of the map to give them a chance to escape or anything like that. And as always, there needs to be a termination button. If the Robin that comes back in is just bad, not very good at being a Robin, you should also have the ability to override that particular person with an AI. So that would be an interesting mechanic because all you would have to do then is just retexture Victor for the most part into like a mini Robin, very, very kid form Robin, and then send him on his way. So there's that. It doesn't even really have to be a Robin. It can just be a retextured anything. You don't even have to change the skeletal frame or any of that. Just change how it looks. Make it somewhat decent, and then ship it. Now, if it becomes a main game thing and people actually want to see it made, they have the ability to apply the kill switch, and they can take the concept down to fix everything that needs to be fixed. And then they can reapply it to the game with its own skeletal frame, everything else, being put together on a more professional scale. Ooh, pizza. Well, I know I just started streaming and I really ain't went over much, but pizza. Give me a second. Woo, things got serious. Why so serious? But yeah, it'd be cool to have a redemption arc for an early survivor that was tunneled down and or sacrificed, where they can come back in and still play and not have to sit through a 10 to 15-minute wait time in between games. I think it would be a nice introduction to the game. All right. Hmm. Another Last of Us chapter? Is this a new concept or is this something that's been brought back? I'm going to click on this because I've read something about this before. It was the gigantic brute that it was over. Oh, this one's over the clicker. Is Cordy the one that's always putting up the Last of Us? I must know. Yeah, it ain't been in there recently. I'm not gonna go too far down into things. New chapter, or should I say, in addition to a chapter, The Last of Us chapter, because there are Last of Us killers of every single individual, I guess you'd say monster or mutation. There you go. Monster mutation in The Last of Us. Somebody's made a concept over it. Speed 4.6. Tear radius 12 meters. Hmm. Hmm. I would say, well, unless you're going by the actual Last of Us, like locking system on when you can actually hear when they're around, you could go 12 meters. But I would say clickers are one of the more terrifying things in The Last of Us. If they get close to you and you don't have the appropriate items, it is a immediate game over. That's it. Gone. You are dead. Oof. Clickers are very terrifying in the aspect of things. So I would assume a clicker would have a even higher tear radius on par with other killers, if not even higher. Because, you know, your regular killers, mind you, I mean, Demogorgon, and there's a couple of other exceptions. Most killers still have, you know, like a mask on or something like that, but they still look, for the most part, human. Demogorgon's just a cute little fella, though. You could scratch under his chin and give him a kiss on the forehead and send him on his way. But for the most part, like Huntress, she's just big buffing, hulking woman carrying axe. Michael Myers, guy in mask with knife. Ghostface, suited up with knife. Legion, bloody mask killer with knife. You have some things that are like spirit, but I mean, even with spirit, it's a humanoid, dead, like, pale form. With katana, I think is what she has. Oni, guy in mask. Freddy, burnt man with claws. I'm trying to think of somebody who's mangled. Trapper has a mask. Nurse, I mean, obviously, previous old nurse that can just teleport kind of in like a spirit form. Who's just a mangled, disgusting looking killer that's just ugly to deal with. I guess Nemesis would be kind of an exemption for that. He has like tentacles, all of that. He's very big, very intimidating. And he has a 32-meter tear radius, probably. I don't know. I've never looked any information of Nemesis. What I think I might do in the not too distant future, when I get through with all of these concepts and all of that, I'm going to sit a day aside and I'm going to go through and I'm going to take time to review every single killer. Now, what I want to happen with this particular series that I'm going with, I want to find somebody who is a pro killer main of this particular source, or at least decent with it. I want to review the killer, see the just straight up strengths and weaknesses that I see, you know, just offhand. Go through, talk about, you know, if everything seems for the most part balanced, which it should. because I mean it's implemented into the game, so it should seem balanced. So go over the aspect that makes it balanced, I guess is what I should say. And then continue to flip-flop to somebody playing that particular killer and seeing the strengths and weaknesses of it. Now, the problem I'm gonna have is I need to contact a pro that plays a lot of different killers, and or I'm gonna have to contact every single person that plays, you know, professional Dead by Daylight, or at least higher level Dead by Daylight, and I'm gonna have to obtain their permission, whether it's via comment section or something else, to get their permission to use their particular video. Now, it's not going to be the entire video because most people who post run, you know, multiple matches or they live stream it or something like that. So we're just going to be kind of watching one match that they play. And if it's extremely long, we can skip through things like that. But I would like to see my review and then watch as it stacks up against a particular professional that plays it and see how they counteract what I'm saying or how they use the weaknesses of a particular killer to their advantage. Now, if it's a base killer, like, you know, like Trapper and Huntress and things like that, it's not that big of a deal. You know, I've played them and all of that, and I've gotten 4 pieces. But there are some killers that I've just only played a couple of times, or haven't played in a long time, and they've been since then balanced to be decent. Now, if I'm lazy and don't feel like getting written permission, I might just link videos and we just watch them on our own separately as opposed to on stream, and we just leave, like, you know, a little time frame in between them so everybody can go ahead and start, watch the video together. They get their views, I'm not copywriting, and then we come back and discuss things. And if everybody hits play at the same time as things are happening, I can actually give some commentary if, you know, they're not like super loud. I mean, obviously they're going to be streaming and making videos, so they're going to be talking, but I'd like to give some commentary over their video so everybody else is giving them views and everything else like that, but I'm not directly showing their content on my particular video. So there's that. And then the thing about that is, if I specifically say in this stream right now when to press go, and everybody presses it, even if I'm not live and things like that, people can go back in and watch the particular video that I'll have linked and still get the same amount of content. And it won't change. So that's my future plan after I run out of content, is to go over the main killers. I went over the main perks and things like that for the most part, to just get a feel for what you can do with the game thus far with perks. I guess technically you could say I went over survivors too, but because survivors really don't have any type of differences at the moment. And then I want to go over killers in detail to see how you use their powers, things like that. If it's an interesting killer, maybe even different possible builds if they're very versatile. If not, we'll just go with whatever build's shown in the video. Now, I just figured I would let you know of upcoming content. We can head back into Last of Us. Cordyceps mutation. Cordyceps. Is it Cordyceps or is it Cordyceps? Because I've always called it Cordyceps. Is it Cordyceps? I don't know. Maybe I've just been saying it wrong. But I feel as though it's cordyceps. Cordycepsis. Anyway, cordyceps mutation. Once a regular heat, well, I mean, we all know what a clicker does. The blah blah. The virus has robbed the clicker of their sight, but has granted them increased strength and echolocative abilities. The clicker cannot see survivors further than 8 meters away from itself. Survivors running, repairing generators, and performing rushed actions while within 48 meters of the clicker have their aura revealed to the clicker. It's echolocation, guy. You can't have an aura revealed to the killer if it's echolocation. That's not how that works. Survivors walking within 16 meters of the clicker have their aura revealed to the clicker. So, you have the obvious issue here of any survivor working on a particular generator is going to be brushed down by the clicker. The clicker has a very low tear radius, and I can see why because of how you tried to implement this. I would recommend going back through this cordyceps mutation and giving it a third thought through to see how you can make this more prominent in the game. Because what you have here is, as long as a survivor, well, it don't make any sense there either. As long as a survivor is not moving when the clicker comes around, and they are farther than 8 meters from itself, it cannot see you. If a survivor is walking, they have to be without out of 16 meters. And if they're doing any type of other action besides standing there or walking, they have to be out of 48 meters. Now, the problems you're going to have here are going to be one of two. One, anybody who's played Dead by Daylight for a decent amount of time and knows their loops and all of that is going to easily be able to catch and down killers or killer survivors. On the other hand, somebody who's new and is trying this killer out because, you know, they like The Last of Us, this killer is going to be unplayable to them. The skill set is too high. Your killer relies on time and game and knowing the maps and knowing where to go and everything like that. If you're new, the only thing you can do is run to a portion of the map, and if a survivor just so happens to be running around or working on a generator within 48 meters of where you ran, which you're just going to be gen patrolling anyway, their aura is going to be revealed to you. And when you make it over to them, the survivor is not going to be able to escape that aura being revealed. So that particular survivor is going to be tunneled. There is no factor of escaping, no factor of anything like that. And this gets even worse for somebody who knows the map and knows the game. I know exactly where I need to run to find a particular survivor. I can literally, at the start of the match, take off, find a survivor. As soon as I get that survivor within my perception range, they're screwed. They're never going to get away from me because I'm going to have them aura red at all times. And it's just going to be that simple. They're stuck. You can throw whatever pallets you want, you're never going to get away from me. Survivors move at 4 meters per second. A survivor would have to walk for 4 seconds to get out of my aura reading ability. Or not walk, they would have to run for 4 seconds to get out of my aura reading ability. It don't take that long to drop a or break a pallet, even if it's a god pallet, and continue on to catch them again. It don't take that long. And they're not just gonna stop and start walking away. That's not gonna happen either, because then I'm just going to continue along that path until my echolocation picks them up. If a new person has Nemesis, a person that's played for a while, that isn't necessarily new, they have like a month of experience. If they have like Lethal Pursuer, they can do the same thing somebody who's played the game for a while does. You'll see the auras of everybody at the beginning of the match. You'll then run to one. As soon as you get close to one, the chase starts, and you're going to do your thing. Now, if we go back up, the virus has robbed the clicker of their sight. Not some of their sight, all of their sight. But the clicker cannot see survivors further than 8 meters away from itself. Robbed of sight means zero vision. If you would have said they would have been blind or blinded or anything like that, that's also a little bit different. Being legally blind means, you can see still, obviously. You just can't see that well. But that's just harping over the small things. Increased strength and echolocative abilities. This is a good description of the particular clicker, which should be posted up here where the difficulty is. And then we would like to see an overview of your particular killer. Not a description. There's a description there and it's fine, but I want to see an overview. How do you envision your killer to be played? As we went over either yesterday or the day before, an overview is just a general summary of your particular killer and or its abilities, things like that. Like, what's the play style of your particular killer? What does it do? What's its strengths? What's its weaknesses? How do you expect us to play it? Etc., etc. That's what I mean by overview. An overview and a description is completely different. That is a description, which can go up there with the speed and all of that other stuff. But I need information so I can give you a review that's fair to you and your envisionment of how you intend to have your character played. Is it going to be like a gen camping type build? Is it going to be a hook camping? I don't know. Is it going to be a pursuer? What do you expect to do with this particular clicker? Having 12 meters as a tear radius isn't very good. It's not very cash money. If you're going to have 12 meters of a tear radius, you should have some sort of fungal screen overlay of when you get close to other survivors, where the screen turns kind of yellowish or something like that. Then your tear radius kicks in, or you should have some sort of theme song or theme noise or something like that they can hear you from farther away until the tear radius kicks in. At 12 meters of tear radius, it's you moving at 4.6. It's gonna be what? 2 and a little change seconds before you're right on top of survivors. And once you're on a survivor, you know exactly where they are essentially the entire time. Because you can see them from a large amount away, 48 meters, when they're working on generators or performing rush actions or anything like that. Now, I want to start off with the ore reading. Again, like I said yesterday, you should stay away from ore reading if you don't know how to properly implement ore reading per base game. I would recommend that you use Killer Instinct over ore reading. Killer Instinct shows you the location of a particular thing, but it doesn't show you which direction they're pointing, where they're headed to, or anything like that. You just get that doom 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 effect of where they're going. Or you can come up with your own type of echolocation effect or anything like that. Or reading, extremely powerful. Killer Instinct, powerful, but not that powerful. Killer Instinct also allows you to see things through or that are hiding in lockers, etc., etc. So a survivor hiding in a locker, breathing, things like that, it can be picked up. Now, you can add in a clause for this particular power, and this is why I'm saying you should make up your own type of echolocation ability and what it does, and just customize it to be like a clicker. But the thing about it, if you're customizing it to be like a clicker, anybody that's essentially standing still, the clicker will not be able to see and definitely shouldn't attack unless it comes close to it. So people who are still should essentially be invisible, almost like the spirit walk, except for it's just people that are still have nothing, no type of why is that echoing? The people are still should have no type of noise that they make, anything like that. And the clicker shouldn't harm them. Now, if they're injured, I could see an injured survivor that is 8 meters or so from the clicker being picked up easily. But a perfectly healthy survivor that has a killer like that has echolocation comes near it shouldn't be affected by that. Shouldn't be affected by that at all. If something's running, clickers generally don't have a large amount of hearing. 48 meters for a clicker is kind of ridiculous. I've played The Last of Us and all of that. You can generally run until you get into the particular area that they're in. You can run around and do whatever you need to do and they won't bother you. It takes a lot to get a clicker to actually come after you. Clickers are highly susceptible to distractions as well and things like that. But I would definitely try to create a sort of echolocation ability specific to the clicker and not try to use aura reading. Too much aura reading like that's way too powerful. Survivors will never be able to get rid of you. Echolocation also doesn't apply at all times. Echolocation is sort of like a sonar. It goes every once in a while, boom. You can see everything. Boom. It hits again. Boom. It hits again. It's not an end all be all. So if you do want to keep things the way it is and call it echolocation, all of that, go off the basis of echolocation. Now I see the special ability of echolocation, all of that allows you to see noise and all of that. And I'll get to that. But I'm talking about this particular thing right here with the aura revealing and things like that you have passively. If you're going to add a clicker in the Dead by Daylight, and we all know clickers aren't the most powerful. Yes, they have that insta-kill ability and things like that, but taking them down, they are very weak. They can easily be manipulated to sneak past, etc., etc. The killer you're trying to implement is very weak by nature. And since you're trying to implement a very weak killer by nature, the killer should also be weak in Dead by Daylight by nature. There shouldn't be any OP and all of this other stuff because you can sneak around the clicker or even sneak up behind the clicker and take it out with the shiv. Obviously, you can't take out killers and all of that in Dead by Daylight, but I mean, sneaking by a particular clicker isn't going to reveal any type of location by them. That's by lore. So if you do want to include something that has all of this aura reading, I would recommend getting rid of The Last of Us, because one, that's a contract that they would have to grab anyway. Two, I would get rid of the clicker and make a brand new killer that's just different. Make it like the shrubbery or something like that. Just something completely different from The Last of Us. Get off of that aspect. Because generally what happens when somebody tries to pull from a particular aspect, they try to take that aspect and then they try to buff it up to the game, whether it's over buffed or under buffed or whatever. You try to apply that to Dead by Daylight and it generally don't work. But on this, like I said, the Cordyceps mutation, I would definitely change all of that to not just have aura reading whenever a survivor does anything. Because once I get to you, you're never going to be able to escape me. Ever. You get a lucky pallet stun, guess what? You're not going to have enough time to get away from me by the time I break this pallet and head back in your direction. Because the longer you're running, the more clicks, or the more reads I'm going to get on you. And if you start walking to try to get away from me, I know the general direction you're going in because you stopped running in that direction. I have 16 meters of wiggle room when I get close to the location that you're in. You know how long it takes for a survivor to walk out of 16 meters of where they stop running? A long time. More than enough time for me to, even if I'm stunned, to break said pallet and continue along the path towards the survivor. Clicker can also see 8 meters away from itself, so I can still see scratch marks and blood pools and everything else leading in the particular direction to assist me in helping to find you. So all of that together gives me the ultimate tracking ability. And I'm running at regular speed and I have a reduced tear radius. I'm able to track you to the ends of the earth. Now, the final reason that I say you should stay away from aura reading is because through aura reading, you can see which survivor is which. Then that isn't very savvy either, unless they're all playing the same survivor, you know, and things like that. You can easily tell who your target is out of the bunch. Killer instinct, if you're going after one person and they hide and crouch and hide somewhere, and another person continues along the path, you're not even going to know who you're chasing. You're just going to see another thing pop up, and you're going to immediately continue after it. Which gives them the ability to pass you off and takes advantage of the particular killer's blindness. And as you know, people are getting injured and you're chasing people, they can just keep passing you off and the other person can heal. Now, that's just aura reading problems. After you down a particular survivor, and you pick that survivor up, and you are going towards a hook, I'm going to assume that you can read every aura and everything else like every other killer. However, only being able to see 8 meters in front of you, again, if you're new, you're gonna have a heck of a time, especially if you're in the bottom of like Gideon Meat Plant or you're at Midwich or something like that that has, or even Leroy. It's just a place that has an insurmountable amount of obstacles in front of it that you have to go around to get to that hook. And survivors can set up traps. If they see that you're heading in a particular direction, they can just slam a pallet along the way and keep you from going that way with a survivor in your hand. So you're going to have to take a lot of careful planning and things like that. Yes, you'll have your location ability, and if a survivor comes within and tries to flashlight you, you'll know they're there. But on the flip side, once you pick a survivor up, you're vulnerable because of your lack of vision. 8 meters is not a huge amount of space to be able to see. So keep that in mind. Repairing generators and all of that, and performing rushed actions and all of that other stuff, I do not think they warrant an aura reveal. Again, a very small killer instinct when it happens, and then you go on your way. It's typically fine. And I don't think 48 meters on a rushed vault, I don't think they're that loud to where you should be able to pick that up from that way. That is literally 4 times the tear radius that you have set. So 48 meters is kind of ridiculous. You don't want map wide aura reads all the time. You literally, some maps you can actually stand right in the middle building and just wait for a survivor to run or anything, and you'll literally just ding, there they are. They're working on a generator over there. You no longer have to go anywhere near generators to patrol them. You just need to get within the particular range of them. So you can cut a very small circle around until you ding a survivor and then head towards them with this superior aura reading. Another reason why I don't think it should be this wide at 48 meters. It makes no sense for me to be on the other side of a building and perform a rush action and to have my aura revealed to you as well. Don't make any sense. Generators are loud. Why not ping the generator? Any generators that are being worked on, since you were based off sound and positioning and all of that, any generators that have any type of progress on them should just glow to you brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. Any generator that's not being worked on should typically be invisible to you, because it's not anything that you should typically worry about, because you're based off of echolocation and things like that. So you shouldn't be able to see all the auras of generators until they've been worked on. So at the beginning, you can see what generators are making louder and louder and louder sounds, and as they come close to completion, they should start to glow and light up. So it's the opposite. Instead of having gens light up until they're completed, you're going to have gens light up when they are completed. And as they're being worked on, they're going to slowly get brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And the distance that they have to make sounds should go up and up and up and up and up and up. If you're going to use a particular thing, you need to go into a lot heavier detail, especially echolocation wise and all of this. You need to go into very hardcore detail because you're essentially introducing a new mechanic. So your power and all of this and your echolocation, all of that should probably be about the length of this entire thing right here. Your whole project should be the explanation of your power and different situations that you could occur in. That is the life of a creator. Anything you want to try something new, you got to go through and you have to explain it all clearly. Why I don't recommend somebody who doesn't have a super attention to detail and something like that post a lot of projects at once. You just stick with something and then you come back to it. Also, new chapter. Anybody making a chapter, for the love of God, if it's short and it's something like that, please add in work in progress or something like that. Because, I mean, this is not a chapter. You literally have a very small section for a survivor, which seems to have more detail in everything than everything else. But I see what? Oh, you're putting the unlocked at the bottom. Gotcha. You have more detail for your survivor than you do your actual killer when it comes down to things, and that's kind of funny in one aspect. So you definitely need to revisit this particular killer. And like I said, I ain't even gotten to the special ability, just the power. And you need to go back through and you need to label, list, and give me every single detail known to man all throughout that. And while you're doing that, and you're probably going to be hating your life while you're doing that, maybe this realization will give you a sense of actual balance, as opposed to shortchanging it and briefly summarizing it. Because after this, I have no idea what kind of play style you were going for, what kind of killer you were going for, what kind of anything you're going for. I'm not going to go off my knowledge of The Last of Us in great detail to fill in all the gaps and all of that. I want to know what you are thinking when you're doing this down. I know what I'm thinking. I even have about, in my mind, I've thought of about 20, 25 different things that could really buff this idea up. No, I'm not going to start speaking of them because I want to see what you want to do with your concept. I don't want to give you ideas to add to your concept and it become more my concept than your concept. I'm going to keep looking at what you put down over time, and I'm just going to start commenting on what you have. Special ability, echolocation. The clicker makes a clicking noise in order to echolocate those near it. Press the active ability button to create a clicking noise that reveals the auras of survivors within 12 meters of you and in your field of view for 3 seconds. This has a cooldown of 2 seconds. The clicker can already see in front of it 8 meters. And you said that it reveals the auras of survivors within 12 meters of you. Period. If you can only see 8 meters and this echolocation goes 12 meters, you're just saying the same thing twice. Just say that you can see the auras of survivors within 12 meters. Instead of this has a cooldown of 2 seconds, why don't you just make this a passive ability that goes off? I mean, it's going to have to be more than 2 seconds, obviously. And I recommend going off of Splinter Cell, actually. I've been playing Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell Conviction had it, and Splinter Cell Blacklist has it. Blacklist is the last game. If you look up the sonar goggles and how they work, when you are standing still, you put out a sonar. Anything that the sonar blips remains active and can be seen by you until you move. Once you move, everything becomes blurry and, until you sit still and it pings again. You can adopt that and change it to keep yourself from having blurry vision while you're chasing survivors. And you can just make the sonar you can make the sonar activate or ping once every 5 seconds or something like that and continue to move on. 2 seconds isn't very good and isn't very cash money. You might as well just give your killer the ability to see 12 meters as opposed to pinging it every 2 seconds. You're not leaving enough time in between pings. And the entire time, every 2 seconds, hearing a clicking sound from a clicker is going to get very annoying. Very annoying indeed. But that can be changed by extending the amount of time between clicks And I mean, I understand pressing the button allows you to get control over when that particular clicking noise happens and the ore revealing happens. You know, you can go, boom, apply it, walk a little bit farther out, and then boom, apply it again, and then walk a little further out, and then boom, apply it again. But why do that when you can literally just have it do for the player automatically? Like breathing, just have it be done automatically by your killer once every like 5 seconds. And then every 5 seconds, you get 3 seconds of a pseudo aura reveal. Again, I like the ability of the sonar goggles from Splinter Cell, and you can look that up to see how they work. I think I explained it pretty well. As soon as the sonar goes, boom, it pings the entire person. You can see them. They're lit up and generally like white in Splinter Cell. You can see, you know, the clothes that they're wearing, things like that. It's just they're covered in white, like shaded in white completely. You can see through walls, you can see through everything when the sonar goes. If you want complete detail, you can there's also colorized sonar. You can actually go to my Splinter Cell video that I did yesterday. 12:22. It was late at night, so it was the last Splinter Cell thing that I did before this review. And if you skip towards the end, where I use the sonar, you can actually see how it works colorized. The sonar only goes for X amount of distance. It's a decent range, but it isn't like super OP to where you can see the entire map at once, but you can see a decent amount to move around and do what you need to do. As you're sitting still, sonar keeps everything for the most part pinged. You can see clearly. There's nothing wrong. You know, it's essentially colorized imaging what you have on your particular killer. Except for, obviously, Sam can see because he's a regular human. He can see farther out. And that's kind of when I go off of when I'm talking about where you can only see 8 meters in front of yourself. If I picture not being able to really see that far with Sam and happen to use echolocation to find everything, which I mean, it literally shows everything, especially if you use the colorized in Blacklist. You can walk through just fine, moving from thing to thing. I mean, in Splinter Cell, you obviously have to worry about being taken down, but in Dead by Daylight, you don't. If I could just run around and go from guard to guard to guard to guard using this sonar vision and not have it blur out or anything like that, it would be a piece of cake. They can't run away because next time it gets pinged, I'd know exactly where they're at and where they're going. Very OP. Or reading is very OP. That's why I don't recommend using it. But I mean, as things change here in the regular power, your echolocation's obviously going to have to be updated and it's going to have to change as well. Special ability Berserk. Once the clicker is locked into its prey, it loses all rationality as it hunts it down. When the clicker reads a survivor's aura, Berserk charges up. Berserk activates automatically when it's fully charged, about 10 seconds worth of aura reading. That is a piece of cake. You can literally just, as you're walking to a generator, your bar will be charged by the time you get there. How do I know? Killer moves at 4.6 meters per second. The aura reading is 48 meters. So, in 10 seconds worth of time, the clicker will go 4.6 meters. So by the time they get within striking distance, they'll already have their Berserk charged up. Keep in mind that generally it's not going to be a super straight line as well. It's going to take a little bit more than 10 seconds of travel time because you're going to have to go around obstacles and things like that, plus the limited view distance. So, keep that in mind. As you're heading towards a survivor, your berserk's going to be charged up every time you go after or get near a particular survivor, unless you go from one survivor to another survivor. Now, upon activation, the clicker screams and gains a 7% boost to movement speed. That is like 0.3 something? Just off the top of my head, I think it's like 0.3, so you'll be moving at like 4.9. Yeah, somewhere around like 4.9-ish. Maybe beginning 4 point, or in 4.8, beginning 4.9-ish. Movement speed. Well, no, you'd be over 5. So let's just say you're going to be moving around 5 meters per second. So by the time you get close to a survivor, you're going to be moving at 5 meters per second. And you're going to have that aura reveal for being that close to a survivor. And if they try to run, you're going to have indefinite aura reveal on them for as long as they're running. Recovers from stuns 30% faster. Why? A berserking clicker doesn't recover from anything any faster than anything else. I mean, generally they're just dealt with, but why give them a 30% faster recovery? Instead of covering things like that. As a matter of fact, if it's being berserk is reckless. So it should take longer for it to recover. That is the balance that a lot of games have when it comes to berserkers. You're vulnerable. You're not watching. You're not covering yourself. You're just running into or running towards whatever you're wanting to get a hold of. Very clumsy, very reckless. If you get stunned, pow, your stun should be longer because your movement speed is faster and you're being more reckless. It loses all rationality as it hunts down. Do not increase the stun duration in anything, or do not decrease and make it recover from stuns faster. Make it recover from stuns slower because you're boosting its speed by 7%. And it can put healthy survivors into the dying state. So what in your mind thinks it's a good idea to make it to where killer can move faster, can recover from stuns, and can put survivors into a dying state? Again, I find myself asking people this question. What in your mind made that seem like that was a good idea? Very curious, because nobody ever answers that question. You want to increase movement speed? Fine. Clickers generally do move faster when they have that. Recover from stuns 30% faster? No, absolutely not. Because once you're motoring along, you're going to be catching up 1 meter per second on a survivor. The only thing they have are windows and pallets and, you know, the regular jukes and all of that. But to stop you from coming after them are windows and pallets. And whatever perk, like, you know, Dead Hard and things like that, to get away from you. And the fact that if they do pallet stun you, that you're right back up and able to continue going, not very cash money. If they stun you, I would go as far as to say that the particular berserk should come to an end immediately there. Boom. That's it. You're berserk, you got laid out, you're no longer berserk. And that's just me. That seems fair. You're able to move faster, definitely should not recover from stuns faster. At the bare minimum, remove that. Makes no sense. put healthy survivors into the dying state. Heavily debatable. Very heavily debatable on being able to put survivors into the dying state. I know you're going off of The Last of Us and how clickers have that insta kill. Hmm. But I mean, as I stated earlier, by the time you start and get to a survivor, you're going to have your berserk charged. So I guess what I would throw your way as a bargaining chip, if you can put healthy survivors into the dying state, and the berserk only lasts for 8 seconds, as it says, I would recommend, even though the clicker is slowed down for a short period of time, I recommend a cooldown being put on that. Why, you ask? Why should you put a cooldown at the end of that? Because that small amount of time that the clicker is slowed down and the survivor is going to be running away and you are going to be stunned and then going after that killer, by the time you get back into a chase with that particular killer, you're going to have your survivor. You're going to have your berserk power again. And remember, your particular berserk power feeds off of reading of an aura. So the more survivors that are nearby, the more your berserk charge is going to charge. If you down a survivor and another survivor wants to come up and risk his life for a flashlight save or anything like that, it's going to be building your killer's power. Because you don't have any clauses saying that power can't charge while carrying a survivor or anything like that. So to prevent you from staying in a power stance for a long amount of time, back to back to back to back to back to back, and essentially remaining in berserk mode all match, I would throw out a cooldown. How long? I'm not going to tell you. It's your concept. You can balance that out. I have an idea of what I personally would like to see, but I'm not going to give you the idea for it. I gave you the idea of adding a cooldown. I'm going to stop there and see if you take the time to go back in, look at your particular concept, and use your own critical thinking skills to say, hey, what can I do to prevent myself from staying in this berserk power all the time? And the thing about it is, the clicker being slowed down for a short period of time doesn't tell me how long, and it doesn't tell me how slow as well. Because if it's a significant slowdown, then, and you're forced to be put into your power when you don't want to be, you're going to be always active in your power, and every 8 seconds, you're going to be heavily slowed. So survivors can just proc your power, sit in a location to where they can either stun you or whatever when you're coming around the corner or something like that. And as you're being exhausted, being slowed, and recovering from your forced power that you didn't even want to activate, they're going to then go for an unhook or do whatever they need to be done. Or a survivor that's running you around for the entire map, using every pallet in, sight, will force you into a berserk mode, force you to come to a pallet slam you, you're going to get stunned, your berserk's going to end somewhere in between there or shortly thereafter, and you're going to be slowed, giving the survivor that little bit of time to get even more distance. And that survivor's just going to loop you in a specific area, taking advantage of your automatically activated power, and they're just going to keep stunning you all match. Once survivors find the meta to how to counter your killer is going to be extremely exploited. So the cooldown is for your safety as well as the survivor's safety as well. which in essence makes balance. Perks go for the jugular. Yeah, they do. Survivors you put into the dying state with your basic attack recover 50% slower and are inflicted with a dupe wound status effect upon recovery. That is the dumbest implementation of the deep wound status effect and dying status effect. So not only do you recover from the dying state 50% slower when you heal and you are picked back up by another survivor, unless you have something to assist yourself, you are then immediately inflicted with the deep wound status effect. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. If I walk by a survivor with an adrenaline syringe that's downed and I give them the syringe and they get up after X amount of time and they're immediately inflicted with the deep wound status effect and go straight back down, but you don't even say how long the deep wound status effect timer is or anything like that and how long it's going to take to put down, I'm going to be pissed. Or if I have Unbreakable or something like that and I get myself up and I immediately get the deep wound status effect and now I'm stuck, happen to heal where I was. Or I have to run off and find another survivor and try to heal. Or worst case scenario, everybody else escapes and I have Unbreakable and they pull your attention as they're escaping. I'm now up and able to do survivor things, but now I have to heal before I even make the push back towards the main gate to exit. So now I have a timer on when I have to escape, on top of, the end game timer and everything else. I have a deep wound status timer that I have to deal with. These don't stack well. You can't just give someone a deep wound timer after they've recovered from being down. It's not how it works. Deep wound is a downing effect, not an after you recover effect. That'd be like giving somebody the deep wound status effect timer after they heal. That's what you're doing here. It's a very big no-no. It's taboo in the game. Don't do it. Recovering 50% slower, things like that. It's already a perk implemented into the game that is similar to this. You don't need to go there. Dormant Rage, you lie in wait for prey to release your rage option. For every 30 seconds spent not in a chase, you gain a token, up to 4 tokens. Whenever you start a chase, you gain a 4% speed boost for 1 second per totem. Or token. 4% speed boost for 4 seconds. Why would I ever run this? The only thing that this would help is essentially an already speedy killer, like Legion or a Chainsaw Boy or something like that. And that would help them get back to a hook if they're running Devour of Hope. If you're running Devour of Hope and you just want to get out of that particular area where that particular survivor got hooked to get that token for Devour of Hope, you would literally just turn around, run back in, and it gives you that speed boost when you head back in for a chase. Or if you just so happen to find another survivor, it's just a free speed boost, but it only lasts a couple of seconds. At 3 seconds, it becomes as about as useful as a survivor perk. At 4 seconds, it becomes a decent perk. 4% speed boost for 1 second. It's not a lot. Because, I mean, you're looking at, what, like 0.75 or something like that? Something crazy like that. Like a really, really small amount. 0.75. Or not 0.75, 0.075 speed boost on 4%. I guess I can just do the math. I'm just doing estimates. 4% of 4.6 is equal to 0.184. I accidentally did another 50 of that. Whoops. Where I got 0.7 something. Or 0.07 something. Okay. So you're getting 0.184 speed added to that. And I'm assuming it was 4.6. So you're at 4.7, rounded up to 4.8. Not that significant amount of a speed boost for 1 second. So for that 1 second activated, you're going to get a essential 1.8 increase on the survivor, or a 0.8 increase on the survivor if you're in chase on them per second. 0.8 increase per second on the survivor. 3 seconds, not bad if you're a speedy killer and that, multiplies out farther. 4 seconds, 3 and 4 seconds, pretty, alright. Not significant, not very good. 2 seconds, useless. 3 seconds, barely useful. 4 seconds, meh. There's other speed perks that you can activate that give you a lot more. And it's not seconds, it's literally until you hit. Well, I guess not hit, but swing. Until you swing, you can keep up that speed boost. So I guess there's other perks that you could run that do essentially the same thing that gives you more value, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. And then a scourge hook. Rot. Whenever you hook a survivor, that hook becomes a scourge hook. Well, then you're trying to implement a different type of hook, not necessarily a scourge hook. Scourge hook has already been defined in game engine. At the beginning of the match, 4 hooks change, etc., etc. Everybody knows the scourge hooks, methodologies, and terminology and all that by now. So, don't use the terminology that's already put into the game and then try to change it. That's not how they are coded to appear in trial. Call it just a rotting hook or something like that. Whenever you hook a survivor, that hook becomes a rotten hook. Up to a maximum of 6 rotting hooks can appear in the trial. Survivors within 24 meters of a rotted hook suffer a 15% penalty to repair, healing, and sabotage speeds. That's not fair at all. Because Hex Pentimento gets a minus 20%, and you have to wait on a survivor to break a totem and then rekindle it, which they can just go back in and break again. So a 15% penalty to repair speed right off the bat. Not very good balancing. You want to look more to maybe a 5% repair speed. One, there's multiple hooks that are going to appear within 24 meters. You can stack this very heavily. Especially if there's a hook right next to a generator, then there's generally 2 other hooks. So you could get up to 45% on one singular generator if you're hooking survivors in the right way. I invite you to go into a local match with a particular friend. Look at the hooks and see how close they are together of each other. They are fairly close by base, especially in some areas. So, there's that. 2, you need to add in the clause that basement hooks cannot be affected. Obviously, if basement hooks can be affected, that's 60% repair speed. Yeah, I know, Gritty. I know. That's 60% repair speed that you could have in a kill shack generator, which would probably never be done, because, I mean, ain't no survivor gonna spend well over 100 seconds trying to do any generator. They're just gonna abandon that. And if you manage to pull a 3-gen situation, you're gonna be looking pretty golden. But, yeah. Definitely turn this to rot hook and then do a lot of heavy rebalancing here because multiple hooks can cover multiple things. New survivor, Joel Miller. I mean, Joel is dead. So, oof. It's all I gotta say to that is very big oof. But, yeah, let's roll with it. Arc Scrounger. 24 meters, and there's probably be at least 2 generators affected by every affected hook as well. Exactly what I'm talking about. That too. You can get multiple hooks on multiple generators and literally just bog that down. And also having up to 6 different hooks as opposed to the original 4 makes a difference as well. Blah, 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 blah. When you find an item in a chest or on the ground while holding an item, right-click to consume the item on the ground and restore 75% of your held item's charges. Literally just did a concept of this particular perk. Literally, I'm pretty sure it was either yesterday or the day before. Just did a concept with this exact perk. Except the person allowed you to hold 2 items, and then they allowed you to feed 1 item into the other item. Literally just did this. This is a stolen perk off somebody else's thing. Again, look at other people's concepts. Look at other people's thing, you know, well, I mean, it's Cordy. Cordy, actually, you know what? I think it was on a post that Cordy actually went in and commented on, too, which is the double kicker. Now that I think about it, Cordy, you literally went to his concept, seen something you liked, gave them your left-right hook and told them to fix their concept this, that, and another way, and then stole one of their perks. Cordy, bro, that's taboo. You should know better. I would take your reviewer's license if there was one for this. Deeper connection. You take a while to warm up the others, but once you do, you work together excellently. You start the trial with a -10 debuff to your cooperative action speed. 40. 40. By spending time within 4 meters of other survivors, your cooperative action speed gradually increases to 15% speed boost. It takes 60 seconds to reach the maximum cooperative action speed boost. This perk is bad unless you're running like Survive with Friends. If you're running Survive with Friends, I mean, it's but this perk is bad. Gen rushing, you want 4 different survivors on 4 different generators. So you don't want to actually cooperate and stack generators. In 80 seconds, you'll have 4 generators popped, as opposed to, let's say, 2 survivors are on 1 generator, 2 survivors are on another generator. It'll take this perk on multiple survivors with Prove Thyself. But then you have to use multiple perk slots in order to get the particular speed boost. Because you gotta think right off the start, all 4 survivors are gonna have a -10, which is essentially an extra 8 seconds. If multiple survivors jump on that particular one, it's 0.1% efficiency per survivor. So you shouldn't have any more than 3 survivors working on a generator at all at any point in time, because the last survivor is not really adding much to the equation. But I mean, like I said, if you're playing Survive with friends and you have one other friend and the two of you want to do gens together, I could see it being useful throughout the entire thing, but it's still not that great, you know? It's very meh. You're not getting as much of a bonus as you think you're getting. If it went up to 20% in 40 seconds rather than 15 and 60. Yeah, I mean, if he increased the things that everything happened, possibly. It's the debuff that's screwing over his perk more than anything there. Because you have the initial debuff of -10 on both survivors, then two survivors working on everything, with the .1 loss of efficiency doesn't add up to the buff that you're gonna get after the 60 seconds. Because now it's going to take you longer to complete the first generator, which gives you even more inefficiencies when both of you could have just worked on separate generators regularly and gotten that pop in generators. And I actually have a give me one moment. I made it particularly for, I should have just slid chat over. That wasn't smart of me. I made this specifically for gen things. Need to switch scenes. Hello? Here we are. Survivors being strongest at the start does allow the downside to be mitigated, though. This is what I have. On screen, I've went through and I figured everything out generator-wise. One survivor versus two survivors doing all the generators versus three survivors doing every generator together versus four survivors doing the generators together. Long story short, you're looking at if one survivor does every particular generator and nobody else helps with generators, you're looking at 400 seconds. If two survivors is going around together doing every single generator, it's going to be 222 seconds. If three survivors are going around doing every single generator, it's 166 seconds. And if four survivors are going around doing generators, from generator to generator to generator to generator, you're looking at 142.85 seconds. Now, if we take this and we add a 15% efficiency for all four survivors, that's what, 60? It was 15, right? I gotta double check. It was... Yeah, 15% speed boost. 15% speed boost on every survivor, and let's say all being together, that's an extra 60%, which gives you a 130% bonus. So we can take the 100% here, and then we can take the 70% here time. We can divide this in half to get 35, and we can subtract the add whatever half of this is off of this, and that'll give you the amount of time to essentially go through with that bonus. Now, we can also do the obvious thing of it's going to take, and this is without travel time. Bear in mind, this is without travel time. All survivors work on a generator. It's going to take you 80 seconds to pop 4 generators. After that, it's going to take an additional 28.57 seconds to complete a particular match if the killer isn't involved. So you're going to be looking at 108.57 seconds, minus travel time, obviously, if every survivor's working on gens and then they gang bang the last generator. So that 130% has to be somewhere in the ballpark of whatever this number is, and then that number has to be somewhere in that general ballpark of 108 seconds for everything to make sense and work out. If it's severely below the 108 seconds, then obviously it needs to be balanced up more, because there needs to still be some sort of penalty for working together and staying together. Then you have to go back through and apply the same things for 2 survivors working on every generator, and then 1 survivor working on 1 and another one working on 1. And you have to make a scale like this. That's 4 survivors, 3 survivors working, 2 survivors per each generator, 1 and then 3, and etc., 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 etc. And you have to make a different syllabus like this that's based off of every particular situation. Now, me personally, like I said earlier on another thing that Kriti did, that's a pain in the butt, and that's going to take, hey, why aren't you capturing that? Excuse me. That's going to be a pain in the butt, and that's going to take a lot of things to do, or a lot of time to do, not a lot of things to do. It's going to take a lot of time to do. And that's just to incorporate one particular perk. Behavior is going to have to go through, make a sliding scale that explains everything that I just explained, the time efficiencies versus the time it's going to take to do generators. You have to balance that to a regular game of Dead by Daylight by making the seconds and everything else that it takes and everything like that. If you want to run a perk like this, I'm going to generally say it's not balanced just by looking off of the 130% factor of it. But you need to make a syllabus that goes along the side of the perk, showing that you've done the math and everything like that. And to implement this one perk, Cordy needs to understand, again, that there's a lot of math and a lot of graphs and things like that he needs to include with this particular perk that shows that it's actually balanced. I guarantee you he didn't. He just used what seemed like a decent speed boost. You start with -10, and then you get the +15 on top of that. Because even the first math that I did, I never did the -10% debuff on top of that because I didn't want to. I'd say make it better, but only be for healing. It'd be better autodidact, though, at that point. Like I said, it's very complicated to go into particular effects like that to implement them to where they can be a standalone perk and not step on the toes of something else. And it's a lot of work to implement them. That is what I am here to essentially explain when it comes to perks like this. They look good by base. Like if I never did the math, you could look at it and say, hey, that's not bad. You're getting -10 at the start, and then you're getting, +15. Now, an easier way to balance this would be you have a -10% debuff on the first generators that pop, and then you have a +15% speed on the next generators that you do. That way, you have a slight loss at the beginning being 2 generators, and you have that increase at the end, the last 3 generators. However, then you would be adding an action trigger to that particular thing to where you actually no, you would have to do it 1 generator, you would have -10, and then the next generator you would have 15%, or an increased scaling from that. And then if you happen to go to a third generator, you could move that up to like 20% speed and 25% speed, things like that, per generator that you do. But if you're not gen rushing and the killer chases you, then you're never going to be able to upgrade that perk. So it's kind of risk versus reward. Also. So I guess an easier way to put that in is first generator you work on negative 10%, second generator plus 15%, third generator you work on is going to have to be a significant buff to that. So plus 20 is not even going to work either. You have to be looking at like a plus 25, 28 to 30. Because you rarely get to complete 3 generators in a particular match unless you're playing with plebs. So I don't know. Deeper connections gonna require a lot deeper thinking. Is all I'm gonna leave it at that. Nail bomb. In an empty chest, you can interact with the chest for 12 seconds to craft a nail bomb. You can do this once per chest. While carrying a nail bomb, right click to lay the nail bomb down at your current location. Nail bomb, Jesus. When a killer steps within 2 meters of your nail bomb, it explodes, stunning them for 4 seconds. That's almost a free decisive. The nail bomb can be picked back up at any time before detonation. So, at any random chest, which you can do once per chest, I can stand there for 12 seconds and essentially get a free decisive strike. Is that what you're telling me? That is ridiculous. That is super OP and does not make any lick of sense. At least make it to where you have to, complete a generator to get a bomb or something like that. Because, I mean, decisive only lasts once and it's 5 seconds. And you can go to every single chest on the map for 12 seconds and get a free decisive strike. Ridiculous. How do you not see that this is OP in any aspect of the word? I'm just going to go from chest to chest to chest to chest, and I'm going to set up a landmine of just bombs in a particular area. And as the killer chases me, I'm going to walk into this landmine of bombs, and I'm going to sit back there and I'm going to teabag and shake my butt at them as they get stunned every single step that they make going towards something. Heck, I might be a smartass and put it in the basement and just line the stairs with them. And then just stand down there and say, if you want this booty, you're going to go through hell to get it. There's a free one in the bottom of basement, and there's chests that are pretty common throughout the map. They kind of spawn in the same spot. For the most part. I mean, they have 3 variations of where a chest can spawn, by the way. But they seem to spawn around the general area every time. And yeah, I would just set up a minefield in the basement and laugh. If I find 5 chests, that's 20 seconds of stun time killer's gonna have to deal with. And if I run decisive at the end of that, that's another stun at the end of that. Or if I run head on, I could hide in a locker and stun them, throw down a flashbang with that, blind them. If they down me, I have a decisive strike. I can run dead hard and that perk and just be untouchable. Absolutely, positively untouchable. So, nail bomb, might need to look into that and make it harder for you to obtain them as opposed to once per chest. Once per game's too weak, but once per chest is too much. And I will leave that there at Cordyceps, new chapter infection, The Last of Us chapter. This isn't the first time I've seen Clicker, and like I was stating earlier, I've seen a lot of Last of Us designs. Might all have been from Cordy, might have been from different people, don't know. But I've seen lots of Last of Us designs. Especially when the game come out. The forum was flooded with them. What's our time? Hour and a half. Mm, we got the post by Critty, and we got a post by Jester Cohen. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to save both of those concepts for tomorrow, so I have at least something to push out. And if by the time I get through both of those, oh, so by the way, Critty, I see what you did here with the Jeff the Killer concept. I see what you did. I see you. I'm watching you. But anyway, I'm gonna end things here for the day, and we can pick this back up tomorrow. Critty, I'll be doing your Jeff the Killer tomorrow, and then I'll be doing Jester Cons, unless something else significant pops up and it blows everybody away and has to be done that day. I doubt it. And then from beyond that, the plan is to go through and look at individual killers. Because, well, you did point out the other day some things about Legion that I didn't completely understand, which is fun. We'll just go through and we will learn everything we need to know about every particular killer. And if it becomes interesting enough, I'll just have a spreadsheet on things about particular killers that I can just pull up. So when I'm saying, hey, this killer's like this, I can just pull up, oh, Legion, bam. This is how Legion's set up. This is how your killer's set up. Notice how Legion has this, that, and another, and how your killer is missing this particular balancing effect, which would give me a greater accuracy at reviewing things, especially things I'm unfamiliar with. But, as always, thank you for stopping by, Cree. Galanonim, hope you're still doing well, and everything else and everybody else in the world. As always, supplement your lifestyle, and I'm about ready to go destroy this pizza. 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 I can't say pizza. Holy crap, I can't say pizza. Interesting.